How we doing, guys? Welcome back to Friday Fuel, brought to you by the Wild Faith Podcast. So grab that cup of coffee and let's get into it. You ever feel like no matter what you do, you're just not getting it right? Like you're showing up, you're working hard, you're doing what you can for your family, but somehow it never feels like it's enough. Maybe you're just exhausted. You got the weight of providing, leading, and protecting your family on your back, and there are days when you wonder, am I even doing this thing right? Man, if that's you, you're not alone. Teddy Roosevelt had this speech called The Man in the Arena, where he talks about how the credit doesn't belong to the critic on the sideline, but to the man who's actually in the fight. The one who's covered in dust, sweat, and blood. The one who stumbles and falls, but still gets back up. Because at the end of the day, it's not about whether you won every battle, but whether you had the courage to step into the fight at all. And you know what? That's what God is calling us to do each day. James 1 verse 12 says, "Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him." That's not a promise that life's going to be easy. It's a call to keep showing up. Even when you're tired, even when you don't have all the answers, even when it feels like the world is stacked against you. And 2 Timothy 4 verse 7 says, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith." That's Paul at the end of his life, looking back and saying, I didn't quit. I gave everything I had for Christ, and as men, we are built to fight. Not just for ourselves, but for the ones that we love. That means working hard, even when we don't feel like it. It means sacrificing our time, our energy, sometimes even our comfort, to make sure our families are taken care of. There's going to be days and times where we're running on completely empty, but that's what men do. We keep going. We make sure that our wife and kids are safe and secure, but providing isn't just about money. It's about time, love, presence. What good is all that work if your family never sees you? What good is breaking your back to build a life that you're too exhausted to enjoy with them anyway? Because you know what? It's a balance. It's a hard one, but it's one we have to fight for. And part of that fight is knowing that deep down we weren't made to just sit still and sit on the sideline. There's something in a man's soul that craves adventure, something that, that's probably why God, throughout the entire scripture, calls a man out into the wild when he really wants to speak to him. Think about it. Elijah, worn down, exhausted, ready to completely give up. And where did God lead him? Till the wilderness. Moses, a man who spent 40 years in the Pharaoh's palace. But it was time for him to truly step into God's calling. Where did it happen? Not in the palace or the city, but in the wild, standing on a lonely mountainside. Then there's John the Baptist, a voice crying out in the wilderness. Mark 1 verse 3. The man who prepared the way for Jesus, he didn't do it from a temple or a marketplace. And even Jesus himself, when he was baptized, the very next thing the Spirit did was lead him into the wilderness. 40 days, fasting, praying, fighting the devil's temptations head on, because before his ministry began, before the miracles, before the crowds, he went into the wild. You know what? There's a reason for that. Out there, away from the noise, the schedules, the expectations. That's where God refines a man. That's where he strips away everything that doesn't matter and shows us what does. If you've been feeling lost, stuck in the grind of everyday life, maybe it's time you just get outside. Because out there, away from the distractions, you might just hear what God's been trying to tell you all along. So I'll close with this. I'm going to ask you one question. Are you in the fight? Or are you on the sidelines letting the world tell you who you are? Step into the arena. Be the man God created you to be. And if you stumble, if you fall flat on your face, good. That just means you're in the fight. Get back up, dust off, keep going, keep praying, keep trusting, because in the end, the only thing that's going to matter is whether you kept the faith. That's the good fight. That's the race worth winning. That's what it means to be a man in the arena. Thanks for hanging out with me this week on Friday Fuel. We'll see you next time.